So Tim from Secret Fire Books published a short story collection in 2024. It's supposed to be really good. Well, I'll be the judge of that. So let me drop some knowledge about this author. Tim, aka T.H. Brandt, is an author and has his own booktube channel, which I begrudgingly talk about on my channel from time to time. He's okay. His channel's maybe a little overhyped if you want my honest opinion. But Tim is an author, and he did publish some short stories in this collection, Sand and Steel. There are 5 tales of sorceress stories of blood, thunder, and heroic fantasy. So, yeah, I picked it up. In the introduction, Tim states, many of his family and friends say he was born in the wrong era, more of an old school throwback when it comes to literature, music, and movies. In his early 20s, he discovered writers like Howard Zelazny, Moorcock, Lieber, and Poul Anderson. And upon discovering so few modern day authors were attempting to write old school sword and sorcery, he rolled up his sleeves, grew his beard of power like Samson, and started writing. This can't be good. Not at all. Cue the intro. Let's dive right in and talk about these 5 short stories. And at the end, I will give you my overall thoughts about Tim as an author, what his chops are, and yeah, if you should spend your hard-earned money on this. So let's dive in and talk about the first short story. I'm going to review what Tim, when in exchanging some emails, said was one of his favorites, and it is By the Sign of the Cross. It's 20 pages in length. In the summary of this one, you have Addie. She works at Finnegan's, a saloon, and she works for Mr. and Miss Finnegan in Menos Fuertes, New Mexico. It is 1868, and this is the account of her frightful and life-altering evening at work when a mysterious man in red and an eerie change of pace at the saloon leads to a night of transformation in Addie's life, causing her to realize that the world is far from a place to everyone believes it to be. And lo and behold, there are monsters. And so what makes this a really good short story? The premise of it is really interesting. I think it's very well done. From the description of the horse, the saloon, the small group huddled at the bar with characters like Duvall, Finns, or the Finns, Mr. Albright, the Dolman brothers, you get kind of a Western sort of feel. It heavily reminded me of different sections of a Louis L'Amour. The foreboding is really, really good in this short story. I will have to give Tim credit there. The man in the red, the crosses, the facial scar, the way he talks and interacts with Addie is really, really well done. I enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Finnegan and kind of their butting of heads. If I could give you a couple excerpts, Mrs. Finn talking about, "Oh, hush, our business is just fine, you greedy old fuss bucket," I thought was really good. And then at one section, Addie says, "For several heartbeats, all I could do was stand riveted in place, listening to death like silence that followed the chaos." In terms of rating on this one, I gave it a 4.5. Again, I really think it was well done. It really kind of reminded me overall of the movie Priest with Paul Bettany and Carl Urban. I had that kind of feel for it. I don't know why. And I had some other feels in some of these short stories as well, and we're going to talk about them. So the next short story I want to review is titled Mage Killer. And when I was talking to Tim, this is the pinnacle short story that most of the feedback he has received on this collection that people really enjoy. And I'll have to say I enjoyed it as well. It is 23 pages in length. The summary of Mage Killer is we're in the city of Nalcaran. Visago the Vile, the Mage Killer, the hired hand, is hired by a veiled lady to go after and kill Azahel. Azahel is a sorcerer. His temple is a strong fortress with minions. The down payment is a ruby the size of an orange. So, yeah, I'm not turning that down. The task seems impossible, but the reward trumps Visago's caution to a degree. And he can't seem to say no to a pretty face. What lies in wait is assuredly death, but for whom? What makes this a really good short story, Visago, I mean, I thought he was a fantastic character, not always pure of thought or intent, but a character you just kind of pull for. And I like that. You know, I don't want all my characters clean cut, and Visago definitely fits that mold. You have the right amount of intrigue, character details, world building, setting that just really screams an old throwback to like a Conan tale. It really does. You have minions, a necromancer. You have religious kind of worshiping to Nydia and the Macarians. I thought it was really kind of had some nods to some ancient, sects and ancient people. I thought was really, really cool. There's a couple excerpts that I thought really showcased, I think, Tim's humor. One of them was, "Murder, my lady, is a very personal affair." And then the other one was, "I am Mage Killer, not the Mage Offender." And I thought that I'm laughing out loud because I know that's Tim. In terms of rating on this one, I gave it a 4.6. It was chef's kiss. I really enjoyed this one. The circle of power at the climax reminded me a little bit of Harry Dresden, how circles have power. It is just an action sword and sorcery tale that heavily reminds me of Conan. And the next one is Golden Rice. It is 7 pages in length, a very short story, but one that introduces a character that I've got a bromance for. Silo, a cutthroat from the shining city of Uz. He's in exile. And he's in a grapple at the very beginning of the short story with Haragoth the snake in a dusty storeroom. And it's for 7 pages, you got to start strong, and Tim does. There's secret tunnels, an item that needs to be procured for an old crusty alchemist and shop owner. And there's this overarching tale of golden rice from Kalen's field. But the whole short story is shrouded in who can you trust? Who's going to backstab who? And so what makes this a really good short story, Silo the character is my favorite character in this collection. I just super excited. I don't know what it is, but I just clicked with him immediately. I really liked Tokar Nan, the brothel owner, someone who has tried to kill Silo before. I like the old alchemist, the shop owner. He's selling tonics, potions, salves, and it's pretty evident in what he has tried to do. I really liked some of the nods to, again, kind of different tongues, Yaren and Darminian. It is an intense 7 pages. I mean, I wanted to reread it multiple times. There's a couple excerpts that I really enjoyed as well. "Your fangs are fierce, but I have been bitten by worse." And then another Timism, it was this quote, "What I wouldn't give for a good sword right now." It just really caught me. I rated this one a 4.3. I am gushing over it, and so the rating's a little low because I just wanted more. And stick around because I might just get it. I thought this was a great premise. It heavily reminded me of Assassin's Creed. It just did. I really was super excited. And so the next one is my least favorite of the tales in this collection, but it is A Notch in the Knife, and it is 11 pages. The summary of this one, we have Will Scathlock. He loses his father's sword, one of the only mementos of his father who was slain, and he believes old Gemma, this hag and sorceress who lives in a cave out in the woods, has taken it. And so Will, with only his knife, has to raise the courage to go after her and the sword in her cave, her lair, and he knows that there is probably booby traps and unknown horrors awaiting him, but he is compelled to find his father's sword, and what he uncovers in the lair is more than he bargained for. And what makes this one really good is Will's character is just one you just kind of pulls on your heartstrings a little bit. You kind of feel for him. You understand his plight. I really liked old Gemma, even though she's a short-lived character. I thought it really set up a great eerie foreboding of what was to come. Her minions and wolves, I thought that little action scene was really, really good. And then at the end, you meet some special characters, which I'm not going to spoil here, which I thought was really well done. There is an excerpt that is ever present in this story, and it is a man who doesn't know the worth of a sword is no man at all. I gave this one a 4.1. Again, my lowest of the 5, but still a solid short story. It is a fun, quick, and nice little read that has a nice little payoff at the end as well. And then the last one, Silver Wings, 16 pages in length. The summary of this one, we have Yori of the Ari Nin tribe, a nomadic tent desert tribe, and he must prove his manhood in a rite of passage where they have to take down a serpent. And so Mata, his father and chieftain, is very encouraging and proud of his son, and we start off the short story the night before Yori must encounter in this rite of passage. And lo and behold, Silo's back. And I was pumped. Silo, son of Kadat, mercenary of the Sand Cranes, exile of the fabled Shining City. He happens to be friends of the chief, Mata, and his brother and Yori's uncle, Moto, before he was slain. Rest in peace, Moto. The rite of passage involves the Nun Su Ten, these silver-winged serpents that, based on what Tim describes, are dragons. And so there is multiple layers in this rite of passage. You can take the serpent's eye, you can take its tail, or you can take its wing, each increasing in difficulty, but the reward that you get is also increasing. You take the eye, you make the rite of passage. You take the tail, you have greater glory. You take the wing, you are bound for great things. And so what transpires with Yori in his trial is very entertaining. There's a lot of great action. There's a lot of great tense moments. And Silo, yeah, man, I like that guy. Obviously, I am very over the moon about this one. There is an excerpt that I want to read you on page number 78 that I think both showcases Tim's writing and the story. For a moment, Yori was transfixed by the giant creature. Its lidless eyes stared at him, imposing on him a vast, chilling void of fear that shook him to his core. How did his people kill such a beast? At that moment, it seemed impossible to him. How could mere men pit themselves against such primeval majesty? He stared back into the serpent's jet black eye and saw there his own reflection. He could see his own shock, his own fear, his own fragile mortality, and he felt himself about to crumble. I thought that was fantastic. That one really stayed with me, that paragraph, and I think it really showcases Tim's writing. I gave Silver Wings a 4.6. I was super excited that this one had a continuation with Silo. So let's transition into my overall thoughts here. Sand and Steel is a great little collection. Tim's writing is accessible. It's very accessible. It definitely screams nods to reading and getting inundated with authors like Howard, Moorcock, Zelazny, and the old school sword and sorcery stuff that you will see on Tim's channel, Secret Fire Books. It's impressive prose. I gotta admit, you never know what you're gonna get, and even though you may feel obligated because, hey, I've got a buddy on BookTube who wrote a book, these stand up on their own by far. I really left several of the stories wanting more. Obviously, Visago and Silo are characters that I want more tales of. So yeah, make it happen, Tim. Like next month, maybe? Just saying. I'm really impressed. I gotta admit, overall, about how much I enjoyed. This is 80 pages of fun. It really is. You could read this in an afternoon and just kind of enjoy yourself. Better than a movie. I highly recommend you go out to Amazon and pick up a copy of this. You will not be disappointed, especially if you like fantasy, sword, and sorcery tales. This is really, really good. And that is my review of Sand and Steel by T.H. Brandt for Saturday Shorts. And as Tim would say, farewell and keep reading. I'll talk to you later.